Hansen has asked our health, English, and everything else kind of teacher, Karen, to speak with him.
Hi everybody. One of the first interactions I had with Hansen was when he decided to take my class, and then after a couple of weeks, abruptly drop it, offering no reason other than a displeased expression on his face as he walked out. So we started off on kind of shaky ground. I actually thought our interactions from that point on would be a bit strained, but as luck for me would have it, we ended up carpooling on our own to a mentoring retreat, and I got to spend a couple of hours with Hansen in a car. Always a great place to talk. And it really was from that car ride onwards that I got to witness what seems to be Hansen's unlimited enthusiasm for discourse, Hansen's intellectual curiosity, his fact and information gathering. He's like a one-person walking Wikipedia. Not always objective, but definitely always lively and up for challenging, engaging, and holding forth on an astonishing array of topics. It's been part of the mentoring landscape this year to see Hansen leading salon sessions at break and lunchtimes, and almost one-person show-stopping stream of in-depth information on a cornucopia of topics. This is a student who knows the minutiae of gun laws and how they vary state to state, how to cultivate yeast for bread making, the lives of politicians in countries you may not have heard of, the specific cheeses and how they're made in the French pyramid, the history of the SAT, which countries sell the most amount of stolen cars. Actually, that is not so savvy. In short, Hansen has a true enthusiasm for thinking, an infectious eagerness to jump and enlist the engagement of anyone interested in thinking. He's also one of the few, if not only, teenagers I've known that would greet me every morning at mentoring with a "Good morning, Karen," and really mean it. He also would always ask me on Mondays how my weekend was and seemed genuinely interested, which is really out of the ordinary for a student to even wonder about a teacher outside of school. I will very much miss Hansen's bright-eyed energy. One thing about Hansen I truly cannot figure out. He is always immaculate. I now have gone camping with Hansen 4 times and traveled to a third world country where the humidity and heat did not dip below 95% and degrees, and Hansen always looked iron starched, sporting clothes with nary a spot, his shirt sleeves precisely folded and aligned by, I'm sure, a ruler. I don't think he sweats. He also has the best coffee-making equipment, which I somehow bribed him to share with me on this last trip, and the coffee was worth my shame at having bribed a student. Hansen, for most students, I would have to give a list of important things to remember when going off to college, along the lines of do your laundry once a week, which also means sheets and towels. Learn where you can get a late-night meal. Meet with your advisor so they know you. Actually call home once a week. But I don't need to do that for you. You have that down. Here's what I'd like to offer as 2 recommendations. Get messy and be brave. The stuff of life, that which connects us with one another, is a messy business. But it's up there with being the most essential ingredient in these lives of ours. And I imagine if we look back on our lives from an old age, it's that messy stuff, those connections with people which will matter the most. Secondly, be brave. It takes guts to recognize and feel one's own emotions and then show them. I've had many instances when I have seen your heart. I see how much you care, see how you truly are a kind person, and how challenging that is sometimes to show. So with whatever credibility remaining I have with you, I'd like to recommend get messy and be brave. Lastly, It is with great glee that I'd like to let you know that you lost the bet, and you owe me a mint chip milkshake. I've got proof from the Albanian government, which I reached by phone.
Hansen has asked his mother, Michelle.
I hope I can make it through this. Believe it or not, Hansen has never liked being the center of attention, at least as long as it's not on his terms. So I'll try and keep it short. Hansen is the oldest of 3 children. Ever since he was a little boy, he's been refreshingly different. He's marched to the beat of his own drum and stood out in many ways. He has a unique personal style. One time, he wore a beekeeper's get-up to the grocery store, which of course I had to explain to everyone what he was. When he was in middle school, in order to get out of math class, he decided to participate in the National Geographic Bee, and as a result, he placed 48th in the state. All this just because he didn't want to go to math. Those of you who know him, I'm sure you're shocked about that. When he was midway through his sophomore year, I asked him how he felt about checking out a private school. He didn't miss a beat and said yes. I knew the moment he said yes to this new school that what he really needed was a special place to further his education and to grow. In less than 2 weeks, he was attending Mentoring Academy. Thank you. Almost immediately, we at home saw a much happier person. The second week at mentoring was the Tahoe retreat. He came home a new and improved Hansen. That night, he told us about his week, went upstairs, and cleaned his room. I pretty much haven't had to ask him to clean his room since. Hansen's always been a curious and inventive person with an infectious sense of humor. Some would say he's funnier than most. He has an affinity towards small children and the elderly, 2 groups often ignored by young people. He loves the outdoors, cooking, and baking. He has an amazing sense of direction, which has come in handy when he's doing the other thing he loves to do, which is to travel. I'm so very proud of the adult he is becoming, and I'm excited for what his future has in store. He's finishing up his Eagle Scout Award and headed off to New Mexico Tech in 68 days. I think the famous author and philosopher Dr. Seuss may have been referring to Hansen when he wrote, "Why fit in when you were born to stand out?" I love you.
He's asked Paul.
So in Japan, where I'm from, there's a system known as senpai kohai, which is similar to like a master-student situation, but in a school setting. It has sort of been romanticized in the West, but the general idea is that the senpai provides knowledge, and the kohai assists him or her in his or her exploits. This is true with Hansen and myself, but not in the conventional sense. For example, during the first retreat, Hansen taught me the correct pronunciation excuse me, of the Romanian dictator's last name, Nicolae Ceausescu. We later then found stinging nettles and proceeded to prick ourselves with it while trying to convince others of the numerous health benefits of doing so, which there are none. Another one of Hansen's master plans was the strawberry pie scam, which I cannot go in depth because I do not remember it. But I learned more about multi-level marketing and conning people from this singular incident from anywhere else. But underneath his sarcastic and sardonic demeanor is more sarcasm and sardonicism. But underneath that, a genuine person. Hansen gives good answers regarding anything from law to chemistry to dumb YouTube videos. He's a witty and thoughtful writer, writing clearly and concisely, but be warned, do not ask him for help in math, as he will most certainly not know where even to begin. I wish Hansen all the best in his college career in New Mexico. The chemistry minor, I think, is perfect for him, as he is continuing his childhood hobby of playing with fire. Blowing things up. There's also rocket sleds, so you know, there's something right there too. So, thank you, Hansen, for showing me the ropes and mentoring, and maybe I'll pass on this, as you would put it, asinine information to my co-hide. So, thank you very much.
I'm told that Hansen likes rap. Yeah! Hansen, straight out of Danville. Explosions and fire. Smart as a cult leader. Thin as a wire. Leading those around them his major desire. Never accuse him of trying to inspire. Handsome Hansen, straight out of Danville. Each hair in place, the shirt always clean. Eagle Scout keen. Chemistry, hydrogen, ion, toluene. Dramatic fire building scene with some help from some kerosene. Hansen, straight out of Danville, off to New Mexico and his next school. There he'll start his own tea time playing pool. Making his own rules. He's nobody's tool, nobody's fool. Handsome Hansen, just totally cool. With apologies to all real rappers. And thanks to Steve, who wrote the first stanza showing me where to go with it. I have a copy for you. When a subject interests Hansen, he can complete a great deal of learning in record time. His successes in chemistry, American Sign, and a variety of other courses attest to a very strong intellect. When he's not so interested, it's not so fun. He's clear about what he doesn't like. And our emphasis here at the school on relationship building, identification of whatever is limiting effectiveness, he found difficult at times. However, there's a couple of things that I've noticed in the last few weeks, which I have been really impressed with. One is two of the younger students built a fire at camp. They did it very carefully, exactly, and right, and thorough, and were proud, and were accolades, and all the rest. The next night, Hansen wanted to do it. And he wound up setting this up to where he was going to do it in something like, what, a minute?
It was a minute faster.
Okay, under 5 minutes, and it was with the spark and so forth. Right. At any rate, so what does he do is he runs over to the main camp, gets the kerosene, comes back, splashes it, pulls out a lighter, and lights a fire. I had a conversation with him afterwards about what was going on there, and in terms of what was happening. Are we really trying to say that you know, we're the main camper and other, what's going on? And basically I was asking him to think about what was happening. And I didn't think any more about it. I mean, I just figured, it struck me as a little bit competitive or something, and it seemed like I would like him to think about what was going on. So that was the end as far as I was concerned. Half an hour later, he says, I did think about it, and I've apologized to them. Oh, okay, thank you. And then we did a circle at the end of our time down there. And it's really, I don't know how to describe it except, it can be a pretty powerful experience. Students saying to each other things that they appreciate in each other, apologizing for things that they didn't do right, asking basically for how are we going to continue. There was a lot of very powerful stuff being said. And this is, you know, and I'm trying to think about how's Hansen, who this kind of stuff isn't his major interest a lot. How's he responding to this? And my favorite moment of that whole day was his standing next to me after I thanked him. And we hugged each other and said, "Who's cutting all these onions?" And I thought, yeah, you know, there were a lot of tears at that time. And I appreciated very much his not trying to belittle it, but to acknowledge that it was powerful and for all of us. So, thank you, Hansen.
The top class is 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Students, family, faculty, and people who just happen to wander in. I want to thank you guys all for staying for this much prolonged ceremony. And I congratulate you for sitting through all of it and not walking out and leaving. I was on the fence about coming myself, honestly. I wasn't sure if it was worth my time, and I've concluded that it definitely was, and I thank you all for joining me in that. So I want to keep this speech short in the interest of time, and I want to go home. Though I do like to wax nostalgic. I started at mentoring in the second semester of my sophomore year, and I wasn't sure how I would feel about it. I was excited for the new place, but I wasn't quite sure. I quickly realized that I would probably fit in just fine, and I later met some of my fellow seniors who have accompanied me on this great journey for, I am ever grateful for their presence, and I thank all of you for some of your support. I don't know most of you, but I still thank you for coming out. I think my favorite moment at mentoring was when I ordered in Poland something called a pork knuckle, which to the uninitiated is a large lump of what used to be pig wrapped in foil. The leftovers of that, it could have sustained probably a family for maybe a week. The leftovers rolled around in the bus for the remainder of the trip and were uneaten, but it taught me a very valuable lesson about traveling and really mentoring itself. There's, you don't know what you're gonna expect, but it's gonna be something big, and you're not gonna forget it. Though some may be skeptical of this, I thank each and every one of my fellow students and staff for having a profound impact on my life, and I will not forget this. And I thank each and every one of you. What a long, strange trip it's been. Thank you. They have watermarked my diploma because I have, and not signed it, I can see. In the beginning, or earlier in the year, there was a dinner where work of the students was showed off, and I was requested, or they demanded I submit photos. So I watermarked them and allowed them to use